Hi, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alicia, and if you're new here, I'm the mom of 3 small children, ages 5 and under. Today, I want to share with you how we do nature walks in our neighborhood. But first, I want to add that it is storming outside, and so if you hear a lot of thunder, that's why. Okay, so to start off, I follow a homeschool method called the Charlotte Mason method, and she is really big on keeping kids in nature. Now, I grew up in the country and we were surrounded by nature. Everywhere we went, it was at least a 30-minute drive to the nearest town. We would walk down old gravel roads, and my mom's boyfriend actually had a creek in his backyard, so we were always playing out in the creek. We were always doing all sorts of fun things out in nature. Now, the difference with my children is that we live in a city, and we've actually considered moving out into the country, but we really do like the convenience of living near stuff. I think it just costs so much to drive back and forth. So we decided to stay in town. So I had to get really creative about how my kids get to see nature. And if you just let your kids explore, they will find things to see. I have some footage that I shot a few days ago that I'm going to show you at the end of this video of the things that my children saw on our nature walk a couple days ago. Now, as grown-ups, we see things that children see, like wildflowers or mushrooms. Maybe they look in the crack of a brick wall or a tree and they see slugs and snails. To us, that's not a big deal because it's not new to us. There are other bigger, more important things. But to children, they are new. The child is new, and so these things are new to them. It's very important that we stop and let the children observe them and make observations on them. I read a book a few years ago called The Last Child in the Woods. I forget the name of the guy who wrote it, but he essentially said that a lot of children today are struggling with things like ADHD and obesity and lots of other problems. The man who wrote The Last Child in the Woods actually said that he doesn't think children struggle with all these disorders that come out. He thinks that they actually struggle with nature deficit disorder. And he gave this idea that, you know, in his generation in the 1950s is when he was a kid, kids had a lot of free range to roam. And he gave the example, when he was a kid, there was a construction site. They went and gathered all the discarded construction materials and built a tree house that summer. And he said there were so many things that they got out of that. Think geometry and construction and physics, so many things that they got out of building that tree house. But nowadays, because of lawsuits and liability, a lot of companies and people are scared of being liable for a child if they get injured. So a lot of nature places are closed off, and a lot of children are growing up in urban areas, like my children. So I really had to think, well, how can we find nature? And I'm gonna share some things with you that we do on our nature walk in our neighborhood. I will preface this that the application of these ideas may apply differently in your situation depending on where you live. We live in a neighborhood with sidewalks and lots of trees. This is an older neighborhood, so there are established trees, and neighbors have been here for a while, so they have established gardens and flower beds. There's a lot of grass, so that gives us the chance to observe wildflowers and bugs that use the flowers for pollination. We see all dead worms, ants eating dead worms, ants eating dead things. So we get a lot of experience just because we see stuff on the sidewalk or in the grass, or the things that our neighbors have planted. Anyway, I want to share a few ideas with you about what we do, and then I'm going to share some footage from our latest nature walk. The first thing I like to do is to have a route. Now, our routes change from season to season depending on what's going on. Our last route that we had lasted for about 14 months, I would say, and that's because there was a man in our neighborhood who had owned several properties, and he had allowed the properties just to get really in bad disrepair. And so after he died, some people bought the properties and fixed him up in it, and we like to walk by those homes to watch them get fixed up. It was really neat seeing the transformation, but along the way we got to see some really cool things that we probably wouldn't have seen because those weren't streets that we would normally have taken. So down these streets, there were a lot of oak trees. And if you know anything about oak trees, you know that they get really thick foliage, and so underneath that not a lot of grass grows. When it rains, a lot of the mud would wash down into the sidewalk. So we had to figure out how to cross this sidewalk, sometimes with a stroller, sometimes with bikes, sometimes on foot. And we kind of turned it into a fun game. There was mud. We had another neighbor that had I don't remember what happened, but somehow they had a bunch of sand in front of their house on their sidewalk. And then there was another neighbor that had a ton of bushes along the sidewalk. So, and then of course trees too. So there was a lot of shade. And we turned it into a game, like a geography game. And where the mud was under the oak trees, we called it the swamp. And we had to figure out how to avoid the quicksand and the alligators. No, it was the alligators. We didn't do the quicksand. So we had to avoid the boggy marshland thing and get through the mud, and we had to go through the dark forest while we were going through the bushes and the trees. And one time we turned all that sand in front of the neighbor's house into quicksand, and my girls were like, what is quicksand? And that opened up a whole new discussion on what quicksand was. One day we pretended like cars were lions and we would hide to avoid the cars. Just a lot of really fun stuff that we would do to make a game of it. And they learned about different environments and animals that live in those environments. There's one space where there were no trees. There was just a bunch of grass for several houses. And so we pretended like that was a savanna and we were on a safari. There was all kinds of fun things that you can do with the geography, with the natural environment of your neighborhood. So this season, for example, we have been going a different route than that particular route that I talked to you about. One day we thought it would be fun to take a different route, and lo and behold, we found two trees that we had never seen before. And one was a gumball tree and the other one was a sweet gum tree. And I thought they were very interesting trees. One, because sweet gum trees have leaves that are shaped like stars, and they have these little balls on them. Well, I think we found this route like a month and a half ago, and the little balls were super green, but the ones in the ground were brown. And so now we're observing the balls, they're called gumballs on the tree. We're observing them as they are like a bright green, and now just the tips of the little pointy parts are starting to turn brown. And now I'm able to talk to my girls about maturing. And we say trees stand still, but they work very hard to make seeds and leaves. I got a lot of really cool footage on it that I'll tell you about when I show it to you, but it's just really fun to talk about the trees being our friends and how they give us gifts when they drop things on the ground. I don't allow my girls to pick things off the trees. I tell them to wait, and every day it's a surprise to see what the trees left for us. I know it's just a tree and it probably shouldn't matter if they pick stuff off, but I feel like it's almost disrespectful to the tree to pick off the little seed pods, because if enough seed pods get picked off, then they're not going to be able to have any. So I just think it's a fun way, and it's just fun to look forward to what did the tree leave us today. And it's just their little nature treasures, and we take our nature treasures home and we put them on our nature shelf outdoors. That one, then when they go outside, they can see those things and be reminded of it. It's just a really sweet way to make memories with my children. Even though we have a route, I do let my children lead in the pace. Depending on what's going on, I may shorten the route or I may have them move along a little bit faster, but generally if we don't have anything going on, I'll just let my kids lead the pace. If they see something interesting, we'll stop to observe it. On this walk, I think we found some bugs and some flowers and a couple mushrooms that we got to observe. It had just rained like the night before, so all these mushrooms were coming out, and we got to talk about that. I generally don't like to do a lot of talking. I'll usually offer a name or a few facts, but my children like to tell me what happened, or sometimes they'll make up a story about what they saw and how, yeah, it didn't even happen, but they just like talking about it and making up a story on it. And I think it's just their way of processing what it was. Nature walks in your neighborhood are actually really good for kids because it gives us a chance to do a couple of things. One, we like to practice following directions. So I will play games like red light, green light when we're out, and that just teaches my kids to stop and to come back. And that's been really helpful out in public. If we're out at the store and I need them to come close to me, or I need them, it's time to walk, so I'll say green light, and then they know that it's time to go. And it's just a fun way to teach them following directions. Nature walks are also a really good time to practice crossing the street and other safety things. My children know that when we're walking, they stop at the corner, and I've showed them exactly where on the corner I want them to stop. I don't want them getting up close to the edge. I want them to stop at a certain place, which is usually where there's a median of grass between the road and the sidewalk. And so usually where the two medians of grass would meet is where I want them to stop. And so that's been really helpful in teaching them. And I usually will stop with them and say, okay, what do we do? Is it safe to cross the street? And they'll look, and then I'll look just to make sure their answer is right. And once they know it's safe, and they tell me we can cross, I double check and then we go. So I try to let them lead in that. I just make sure that they're right because they are still little and it would be really bad if they were wrong and then we got hit by a car. Nature walks are also a really good way to teach children socialization. Now, before COVID hit and everyone was homeschooling, a lot of people were concerned about how my kids would socialize. And actually I was really worried about it too. And I thought, oh my God, we need to do all these things so my children are socialized well. But as time has gone on and my children haven't really played with anyone outside of each other for a long time, but they are really well mannered. When they see other adults, they talk to them. And when they see other kids, they want to play with them. Neighborhood nature walks are a good way to meet neighbors or new people and talk to them and kind of learn different types of people. It's a really good way to practice social skills. I think part of socialization for children is teaching them how to interact with people of all ages, not just peers. It's important that kids know how to speak respectfully to their elders. It's important that they know how to help their neighbors. My children really like taking their nature treasures to different neighbors and giving them as gifts. It's kind of funny because we have a nature shelf outside in our carport, and it's just filled with things like pine cones and acorns and dried out flowers and dead bugs that we find, all these little things that they bring home. Well, then they've started taking the same stuff to our other neighbor, and he's really gracious. Like, he just leaves it out on his table and they see it when they come over. So it's neat to see that he actually cares to do that. But I've actually had to limit what they can bring home because his table and our table was filling up, and I just thought, oh my gosh, we can't keep doing this. But it teaches them, it allows them to be kind and neighborly, and it's a really good way to practice that. The final idea about neighborhood nature walks is that it's a free sensory experience. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to set anything up. You just go on a walk and you get to experience it. So the example that I'll give will be this morning when we had a storm rolling in. I seemed really dark outside while I was doing my daughter's hair. I thought, wow, it's darker than normal. My first thought was, oh my gosh, we're gonna be stuck inside all day. So we finished up our teeth and hair brushing, put on our shoes, and we were out the door. But the sensory experience that we got was really amazing because we started walking and we could feel that the air was kind of heavy like it is before a storm, and we could see the trees blowing a little bit, but not a lot. It was really still outside, but we could hear the thunder. We could see the dark clouds. And as we got further along down our walk, we could hear the crickets chirping. We could start, and then after a few more blocks, we could feel the cold air blowing in, and then the wind started picking up. The thunder got louder. We could see lightning sometimes, and then probably the last block towards our house, we could feel little bits of rain starting to come down. And so that was a very sensory experience. And I'm sure if I thought about it, we could probably smell the rain. Sometimes rain has a smell. Oh, and the birds were very quiet. We could hear a few of them chirping, but in general, we only heard the crickets. It was very, very different than what we normally hear. I can't think of the word, but it was very quiet. We could hear nothing but the crickets. It would just, and we could get that sensation of what it feels like before the storm comes. Nature can actually offer a lot of other sensory experiences too. Walking through grass with bare feet, you can feel the prickle of it, you can feel the coldness of it. Listening to the birds as they chirp or the bees as they buzz around flowers to pollinate, smelling flowers, smelling the flowers in the spring. There's all kinds of sensory experiences. As I've had more kids, I just don't find that I have the time or energy to make sensory bins anymore. I find that nature is such a good sensory experience for children, and our neighborhood is great if you don't want to if you don't want to travel very far, just getting out for a quick walk in the morning, on top of the added benefits of exercise and fresh air and sunshine. So those are all the ideas that I have for you today. Without further ado, I'm going to let you watch the footage from our nature walk the other day. He's not even scared. Look at his wings. They're like paper.
No, put it down. He just...
It's his turn. He's not even scared of me. Back up, please. Okay, I think this is called a blue dasher.
A blue dasher?
Mm-hmm. Blue dasher. Not the snail, but the...
What? The dragon?
Hey, stop, sister. Let's see if we can get him to come out. See? You think that's him?
Yep. No. He's
It says that the males are blue and the females are
green.
green. Mm-hmm. You ready to cross?
Yeah.
All right, cross, please.
Hi.
We're not going that way. They like to ride their bikes and their scooters. Come on. We always teach them to stop at corners and wait for permission.
No.
Here's a little cicada shell. We find a lot of these guys. Wow. See the crack in the back? That's where he climbed out. Isn't that cool?
Is that his skin? I see it from up here.
That's his exoskeleton. They don't have bones. They just have a really hard skin that helps them.
I see.
Yeah. And see, there's the bottom. Ugh. It looks like a monster.
A
Looks like
yes, it looks like a rat.
looks like something from a horror movie. Could you imagine getting eaten by that? So these are the different stages of a pine cone. Maybe that one goes there. I don't know. But you have the lid. I think this is like maybe when it's pollinating, and then it turns into this, and then this is an immature one, and then eventually it'll maybe open up a little bit more. But that's kind of neat.
That looks like a fruit.
It does kind of look like a fruit, doesn't it?
And it's kind of crooked.
Mm-hmm. They like to ride their bikes and their scooters. And kind of just let them make little associations along the way.
It's like a fruit, Bob.
It is like a fruit. Maybe a pear.
This looks like this looks like people.
Oh, and we save earthworms that get stuck on the earthworms that get stuck. Usually after the rain we find a few and we try to put them back. I think this one might be towards the end of his life. He's kind of a big guy. See, wait, yeah, he's alive. Maybe he'll try to go. I don't know. He looks a little bloated and like the ants were trying to get him. He's a big one though. I bet some bird would be happy to eat him up. But we save the earthworms. It's a really good way to teach kids
A green
how
one.
to respect nature.
There's a green spot.
He's very shiny, isn't he? It's just a good way to teach kids how to respect nature and the small things. Please stop. And also just having tree friends is a good way to teach kids how to respect nature as well. Let's just put him out here. I think he's a little old. Here, guy. Yeah, he might just, I don't know which end is his brain and which end's his butt, but we'll just kind of put him down there. Ooh, look. Maybe this is it. Here, little guy.
That's his brain.
Yep. Let's leave him there and let him be with God. Those are mature ones. These are all the things I let them pick up and take home. I don't let them pick stuff up off the ground or off the trees. If it's kind of funny if I don't let them pick stuff up off the ground, or off the tree. But if it's on the ground, I let them do it because I feel like if the tree works hard all year to make it, then it needs to. We need to respect that, right? We need to respect the trees' work, if you will. We wouldn't want someone messing up our stuff. So trees work hard to make seeds, and we're not just gonna pick off leaves and seeds and all that. So these are what we look like. And then you can just, it's kind of fun because once you kind of start looking at leaves, I'll be like, hey Lydia, what kind of tree has star-shaped leaves?
A gumbo!
Yep, nope, a sweet gum.
A sweet gum!
Yep. Here's the gumball. You can't see it, but these were all green back in the, about a month ago. It's really hard to see with the light, but there you go. These were all green about a month ago, and there's the tips of the little pokey things are starting to get
It's a black walnut.
The black walnut. Hold on. The black walnut tree dropped it for you.
Eating it. Yeah.
What are they eating?
Gumbo.
Oh yeah.
I threw it in.
She threw a gumball. Hey, let's respect the ants' home, sister. I don't think they like that. You wouldn't want someone throwing rocks into our home.
No!
Here's something else cool you can do. You can look at the different things and leaves and explain like what's happening to them, why, like those are probably leaf miners right there. They get in, I think their larva gets into the leaf and eats all of it. Yeah, something is eating it. Probably a caterpillar. What kind of tree is this?
A dogwood tree.
See the little seeds? We've been watching this one too. He's not our friend, but we've been watching him too. I'm sad we really missed the, I see that's from a black walnut tree. This is little seed coming up. Sometimes you can look in little bushes or bramble like this and find interesting bugs. There's nothing here today, but one day we did find a wasp in here, and when I Googled it, turns out that it's a stingless wasp. And what it does is it will take spiders and, no, it's a dirt dauber kind of wasp. So the dirt dauber will build its home, and then the blue wasp that we found will actually go in, dig out the dirt dauber larva, say that 10 times fast, kill it, and then put its own larva in there, and then put mud back over it, and then its own little, and it puts a spider in there with it. So it'll take out the first larva, put in a spider. Yep, it'll lay its eggs inside the spider, and then their eggs will hatch and eat the spider, and then they come out. It's kind of neat and interesting and all sorts of crazy. Those are the little ones. Yep. Are these mature or immature?
Immature.
How do you know?
Because they're dropped.
They're green.
Green.
Yep, when they're...
Look.
All right, sisters, let's go. Hey, what did you find? Is that
green.
It's a sycamore ball.
Yeah, it's green.
That's probably from...
cousin.
That's our sweet gum tree's cousin. There's another sweet gum tree across the street. That's a sycamore ball, isn't it? It's probably from last year because it's brown. Isn't that cool?
Yep, but it's green.
No, it's brown. That one's old. He probably isn't going to grow. Or maybe if we plant him, he'll grow. I don't know. Let's go see if there's a green one on the ground. Let's see.
No, this is a green one, Zoe.
Is it?
Yeah, it's green.
Okay.
See, there's a crack.
Look at these mushrooms. See? They started small like this, and they're going to open up like a flower. Liza, you want to come see mushrooms? There's mushrooms over here.
It can open and close.
Yep.
It makes a weird sound.
So you can kind of look at them and see the different stages of development. We start here, and then we open up, and probably tomorrow they'll be like an umbrella. Isn't that cool?